Alright, welcome back to another Art of War 3 replay. I'm your host, John Cena, and today we're going to be doing a 1v1 tournament battle. I'm going to be the blue player, and my opponent is going to be a red resistance player. So, let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to go ahead and get those early game containers so we can get the base development going. So, the game has recently updated a little bit, so the collection process is a little bit different. So with the scouting units, you have to hold your scouting unit in the resource container radius until the blue circle fully fills up. It's not like the previous process where you could just move your unit into the square and just capture the container. So we can see here now that when there's two units in the area, they have to fight it out. My assault is going to fight with this rifleman in the area. It's going to go ahead and win, and that's going to allow us to capture that container. Meanwhile, up top, the rifleman was able to capture the container before my assault could kill it. So, we're going to continue our base development here. We can see a rifleman is scouting our base out here. So, this tournament is called the All for the Front Tournament. The goal of the All for the Front Tournament is to defeat your opponent. What makes this tournament special is that there's going to be containers that randomly spawn on the map, and these containers provide extra resources. So we can see here, scout onto the resistance player's base, that they are still HQ2. Meanwhile, I am currently in the process of upgrading towards HQ3. I'm going to go ahead and build a couple more assaults now, just so I can secure one of the large containers. So we can see here, there is a large container on the map. There is another large container denoted in the far right corner towards the resistance player's base. And again, same thing, you have to hold your units in the radius of this container in order to capture it. And we can see once we capture it, it's going to drop 3 resource containers. So the large containers do take longer to capture, but if you're able to capture successfully, it's going to provide you with an extra boost compared to just capturing one container. So, continuing our base development here, I'm going to go for 6 supply centers here. Just continue to get a little scouting, some visual on the map. We see a rifleman. My plan is to actually go for some vertex. I'm going to produce 1 vertex to start out, and I'm going to use it for scouting of the map. You can see that my opponent is going to drop an air tower for some anti-air. Now, we can see here a couple dragonflies from the resistance player, and my 1 cyclone is not going to be enough to fight off these 2 dragonflies. We had an armadillo coming in as well. So my assault on the ground was able to capture that container, but I don't have anything to back up the assault. It's going to get killed, and my opponent's going to be able to steal those containers from me. So I'm continuing to just produce my army here. My plan is to get Vertex out, go for Zeus, Torrents, and seeing that my opponent's got some dragonflies, I'm gonna maybe produce a couple typhoons. So here we go, a little bit of a harassment from the dragonfly. I'm gonna send my vertex over. They're gonna hit the dragonfly, and I am shocked that did not kill the dragonfly. Usually that one-shots a dragonfly with 2 vertex. So I have to go back in for another volley. Gonna micro the vertex a little bit. Gonna hit the other dragonfly again. Just to make sure that's not a fluke, I have to come in back in again to hit that dragonfly before I kill it. Now, I want you all to take note of how many hits that dragonfly could take. That's going to come into play later on in this battle. So continue to just produce units here. I'm going to go ahead and upgrade a barracks here. I'm thinking of getting some heavy assaults out, and I'm going to make some torrents. Excuse me, I've made torrents and I'm going to make typhoons. I'm just moving some units in here now. I'm going to capture those containers for resources, and I'm continuing to just produce an army. My plan is to go for an HQ3 army, and then we're going to see what my opponent is up to. So I move on to this little clip here. I've got Cyclones, Zeus, Torrents, and a couple Typhoons. And we see that my opponent's got a sniper tower down. I'm going to deploy, and we're going to go ahead and attack. Let's see what happens here. We got porcupines and a ton of dragonflies. That is a lot of dragonflies. I was not prepared for this army composition, and I'm going to take some heavy casualties as a result. I need to retreat out of here now. So gonna go ahead and pull my Zeus off the platform, and meanwhile I'm gonna let my Typhoons try to dish out some damage. But look at how little damage my Typhoons are doing to these Dragonflies. Now, for the audience, I would like to note that prior to the new update for this game, my Typhoons were maxed out for rank 17 in terms of their firepower. So the fact that they're doing so little damage to these Dragonflies is kind of a red flag for me. Here we go, we're trying to get some resources here. I throw on a red air raid boost and I'm able to grab those containers, but now I need to retreat because those Dragonflies are doing a ton of damage to my units. I do not have the composition to fight these Dragonflies right now. I have one Typhoon firing on the Dragonflies, but that is so much fire. I try to bring in my Vertex. My Vertex are microed really poorly. The tapping of the screen was questionable at this time, and my Vertex didn't respond the way I wanted them to. As a result, I dished out minimal damage and lost 3 of my Vertex. That was a bad trade on my part. So that was bad news. We're going to need to regroup and rebuild my army. So this time, to combat the Dragonfly spam, I'm going to go for Heavy Assault spam. So meanwhile, while spamming out Heavy Assaults, I'm going to go ahead and tech up to HQ4. I'm going to send a Vertex over. Let's check out the red player's base. Let's see what they're up to. And we can see that the red player's HQ3, they got production facilities in the back. So 2 special vehicle factories, 2 Avia factories, and 2 assault vehicle factories. That's a lot of Dragonflies right there. So right now, my opponent has map control, and I need to go and reclaim it somehow so I can get back to collecting those resources. While resources are not necessary to win this tournament battle, it is helpful for building your army quicker, and you can use the income for defenses and units and such. So this Zeus, I accidentally didn't micro it properly, so it wandered into this open area, and these Dragonflies are just going to descend on the Zeus, and that Zeus is not going to make it out. It's going to get cleaned up. So, just continuing to produce units here. I've got 2 special vehicle factories now producing a mix of Torrents and Typhoons, while my barracks pump out Heavy Assaults. So at this point, I've got 76 command points worth of units. I'm going to move into the center, and let's see if we can do some damage here. That's a lot of Porcupines and Dragonflies. So my units are not quite in a formation. The resistance player has a very nice concave around my units, so this is a disadvantage for me. I'm trying to deal as much damage as possible. We've got Zeus, Heavy Assaults, Torrents, and Typhoons versus Dragonflies, Porcupines, and Riflemen. And this is not looking good for me. Those Dragonflies are insanely tanky. I have never seen Dragonflies this tanky in my life. And we're continuing to just deal damage to the ground forces. We're trying to thin out the red player's forces while continuing to produce units. So I think we are able to clean up most of the red player's army here. We got some riflemen streaming in from the red player, and I've got some heavy assaults streaming in on my side. We're gonna be able to kill off that last Dragonfly, but now we got some riflemen hitting my units now, and I don't quite have the right composition to fight riflemen. Luckily, it's only a few at a time, so I'm able to clean up some of them, and looks like my opponent is going to retreat. So I don't have a lot of units to press an assault right now, but I am going to rally my units to see if I can kind of control the middle for a little bit longer and get some resources. We can see here a couple large containers spawning on the map. We're going to go ahead and capture those resources. That's going to come in handy for making more units. So I'm going to be upgrading one of my special vehicle factories so I can produce Torrents out of both. Vertex to scout again. This time we see 3 Avia factories, and my opponent has gone HQ4. So my opponent's strategy looks like they're going to try and spam me to death with Dragonflies. It's not a very creative strategy, but if your Dragonflies are strong enough, I guess you could do that. It's pretty annoying though, but it is what it is. So, we're going to move units onto the plateau now. I've got about 80 command points worth of units, and I'm just trying to see if I can amass my units at the opponent's front entrance. Here comes a dragonfly scouting my units. I throw on an air raid boost just so I can get some extra damage on that dragonfly. That dragonfly took a surprising amount of damage again before it went down. And here we go, dragonfly coming in now. And that dragonfly took 2 full volleys from 3 deployed typhoons. That is a crazy amount of armor and hit points. Absolutely ridiculous. And my opponent has a million dragonflies right now and a ton of riflemen. This is absolutely ridiculous. I'm trying to fight as best as I can. Clearly the microing could be better. Meanwhile, my opponent is able to assault my forces and capture that container there, so my opponent's going to be able to get some extra resources there. I'm continuing to try and do as much damage as I can. I've got a gold air raid boost, and only with a gold air raid boost is the damage to these dragonflies seeing somewhat normal. Even then though, these dragonflies are tearing apart my army. They're finally going to retreat. But I just do not have the forces to continue to push onto the red player's base. I'm going to go ahead and retreat. So right now, just producing more typhoons, more heavy assaults. I've got a couple barracks upgraded so that I can get some fire assaults as needed. So this is kind of my staging point, just so I can keep trying to put pressure onto the resistance player. So we capture another container there. Still building up my army. This time I'm going to go for full command points before I try another attack. And here we go. We got some riflemen coming in. And a dragonfly to scout. That's a lot of dragonflies just hanging out in my opponent's base. So I'm trying to see if I can inch my way closer with the torrents. Try to see if I can take out the sniper towers before I move my infantry in. I'm going to throw out a red air raid boost. Here comes the horde of dragonflies again. That is a ton of dragonflies. So many dragonflies. I throw on a gold air raid boost, and here we go. We're going to try to see if we can fight these dragonflies off. So, red player is going to retreat, and I'm going to see now if I can move my Zeus tanks to the front, have my Zeus tanks tank the damage of the sniper towers, and take out those sniper towers before I move my infantry forward. Look at the dragonflies though. There's so many dragonflies. They come back in. They're just raining rockets down onto my Zeus tanks. So I try to bring in my heavy assaults to assist. I've got a gold air raid boost going. This is too many dragonflies though. I've got 5 typhoons just firing onto those dragonflies. And they're dealing out damage, but there's still tons of dragonflies left. So I'm trying to push now with these Zeus tanks. I take out an assault vehicle factory and a couple units, but I'm taking some heavy casualties here. I don't think I'm going to be able to sustain this. Meanwhile, the red player's got more dragonflies coming in, and I don't think I have enough to punch through. I'm getting slowly pushed back by the red player, even though I've got my typhoons and torrents infantry, and it is just not enough. These dragonflies are just way too heavily armored, and they're just slowly cleaning up my units. We got some infantry coming in from the red player as well. So this is bad news right here. I'm gonna have to retreat off the plateau. I'm gonna take casualties as well as I pull off the plateau. So another failed attack on my part. We're gonna have to kind of regroup here. Looks like we got dragonflies and infantry coming in. I'm going to regroup in the valley. Looks like my opponent is going to retreat though. So it's going to give me a momentary respite. Looks like I think my opponent was going to move and capture that crate right there, and we can confirm it. There's a dragonfly and a bunch of infantry at those crates. They're going to be able to capture those resources. So I got to retreat now. Just pulling my units back. I'm keeping my units relatively close so that I have the production advantage if my opponent decides to attack. I know that I can't stay in that valley. I need to get my units onto a plateau or something that gets me some more visual, just so I keep track of what my opponent is up to. So right now I've got 3 special vehicle factories producing Typhoons. Gonna move some Typhoons over. Gonna see if I can try and capture both of these containers. One of them gonna be able to capture pretty readily. These sniper towers now are just firing onto my units, and we see some mammoth fire. Here comes the infantry though. That's a ton of infantry. And the spam game is real here. We got a ton of dragonflies coming back in again. And those dragonflies are just raining down rockets and gunfire onto my units. I'm trying to do what I can in taking out these units. I've got a gold common attack boost going to try and do as much damage as possible. My heavy assaults aren't quite in position to hit the dragonflies. This time I was able to clean up those dragonflies, but my opponent was able to push me out of the containers, and I'm not going to get those resources. Looks like my opponent is going to retreat, so I'm going to pull off the plateau. I need to regroup again. So this is not looking great for me at HQ4. I need to tech up, so I'm going to go ahead and tech up to HQ5. I have a different plan now, and that plan will come to be revealed in just a little bit. We're going to be trying to capture this resource container here. So we got sniper towers firing and mammoths firing on the containers. Now I'm just going to hold my units here because mammoths do not a ton of damage onto infantry. So infantry are able to take a few hits from mammoths, and I figure if my units are tanky enough, I can just hold, capture these resources, and then I can retreat. So now I've captured those resources, I'm going to pull my units off the plateau, or excuse me, off of that area, out of the valley. So I'm going to destroy off a special vehicle factory there, and this is my plan. I am going to go for a space system. I've been fighting, obviously, with a lot of my ground attacks so far. They have not been successful. I need something to break this stalemate. We're already 33 minutes in. We're not getting very far. So, another vertex coming in. Let's scout the red player's base. So, it looks like red was still HQ4. They're going for HQ5. They've got a lot of infrastructure down. So, I spot a dragonfly. I try to go and kill it, but I hit the wrong button. No! Unbelievable. I hit the patrol button over that dragonfly, and my vertex instead registered the enemy base. And so I've wasted a lot of fuel on this vertex, and the vertex runs out of fuel. Now I gotta see if I can try and kill this dragonfly before it scouts my base, because I don't want them to see my space system. But I can't kill it in time because it's so tanky. Look at the dragonfly, it takes so much damage, it's still alive, and it's got a huge scout on my base. So, big disadvantage for me now, because my opponent knows 2 things. 1, I'm HQ5 already, and 2, I've got a space system on the way. So, this means that, given that my space system is in production, my opponent is going to need to do something to respond. Otherwise, I'm going to be able to launch this space strike onto the red player and do a ton of damage. Okay, so I clean up that dragonfly, but now I'm heavily suspecting that given my opponent's lack of creativity, they're most likely going to hit me with another spam attack consisting of overpowered dragonflies and riflemen. So I need to prepare as much anti-air defense as possible and try to position it as best as possible. Here comes the spam attack. We got riflemen and dragonflies moving in onto my position. They're moving down to the bottom part of my base, and those dragonflies are going to move in onto my base. I pick up my vertex. Vertex takes off, and we're going to try to kill all these units now. So I'm in trouble here. Red's got a lot of units in my base, and Red's going straight for the space system. And this is when I realized that I'm not going to be able to launch that space system in time. I try to cancel a space system. The game doesn't let me, and I lose the space system along with the space strike. That is a total of 3,750 resources down the drain. I was so mad when that happened. And we got a chameleon fog moving in. This is bad news for me. I'm just struggling here. So, we're trying to see now if we can clean up these riflemen in the base. Luckily, I've got a decent amount of units in the base, so I should be able to finish off these units. I'm going to try again to see if I can get another space system out. So there goes the second space system. I've got a gold supply boost going. I got to try and see if I can get enough resources in time to build another space strike and launch a space strike at my opponent. I'm going to send a vertex out. Now we're going to clean up this infantry, and this is going to be the last rifleman in my base. So we were able to successfully defend the base, other than losing the space system and the 3,750 resources. So luckily, we get enough for another space system on the way. I'm just trying to save up resources as much as possible so that we can get this space system off the ground. Meanwhile, just keeping my units moving around, making sure that I can respond to any sort of attack that gets launched. And we want to make sure we keep scouting the red player's base. So Vertex is going to go up. Let's see what Red's got. Red's got HQ 5. The 3 factories still. And they've built 3 more factories. Red's got 5 Avia factories and 3 assault vehicle factories. And is currently in production of Jaguar tanks. So I am anticipating that we see Chameleon, Mass Dragonflies, and Jaguars. So this is going to be tough, and we can see at this point, as confirmed, spam Dragonflies from my opponent. No surprises here whatsoever. I'm trying to combat with these Typhoons, but they are out of position. I throw on a gold air raid boost. So this is looking bad. Another attack from the red player moving in, trying to single out my Typhoons. My Typhoons are just getting decimated by these Dragonflies. Dragonflies moving in onto my base, and he spots the space system. I'm going to go ahead and cancel that space system. There's absolutely no way I'm going to be able to launch that space strike, so my space system is going to go down, but I'm going to save the 2,250 resources needed for the space strike, so I can at least put those resources back into something else. So I'm going to put those resources into unit production. Here comes a chameleon attack from the back of my base. We've got mammoths and jaguars in the back of my base, and these dragonflies are continuing to rain fire on my units. This is not looking good for me. Chameleon fog is moving into the base, and we can see that based on the fire, there's some jaguars mixed in there. So my supply center is taking some heavy fire, but I'm able to get my Zeus over there in time, and the chameleon's not fully covering the jaguars, so jaguars versus Zeus, my Zeus are going to be able to clean up these jaguars nicely. We're doing some good damage here, so we're going to be able to save our infrastructure for the most part. Thankfully, this chameleon attack didn't do as much as I feared it would. Here comes some jaguars though, moving into the valley. I've got some infantry, but that is not going to be enough. They are not in position, and there's just not enough of a number. So I'm going to need to reposition my army and move them back to the front of my base so I can get ready to defend just in case. So at this point, I'm going to go and switch back into attempting a full ground army. Here comes some dragonflies though. My opponent back at it again with the dragonfly spam. And this time it's not as many dragonflies, but I don't have any anti-air that's quite ready. I've got a Vertex that just finished being produced, so I'm going to move my heavy assaults into the middle of the base just so I can hit these dragonflies, and we're going to be able to dish out some good damage on these dragonflies. Thankfully, there's not too many of them, and we're going to be able to clean up that attack. So I lost one of my supply centers. It's only one supply center. I've got plenty of resources though, so I'm going to go ahead and rebuild. And I'm also going to drop down a 7th supply center. At this point, I don't know how long this game's going to go, and I need the extra resources because this game is dragging out. So I'm going to drop it down, and I'm going to put down a 3rd assault vehicle factory. My plan is to go for a full Zeus Typhoon army, And so I've got 3 factories for production for Zeus and a couple for Typhoons. Okay, here we go. Zeus versus Jaguar, one-on-one combat. And we can see here that Jaguar is actually not that strong. Probably because my opponent poured upgrades into maxing out their beefed up dragonflies. Beefed up dragonflies trying to attack my units here, but they're going to go ahead and retreat. I've got a gold air raid boost going and a decent position. So we're just continuing to cap off my command points. I try to move onto this cliff and I see a ton of Jaguars and Chameleon Fog. I'm actually going to retreat. I am not trying to send my army up that cliff. That is going to be a death sentence for my army. They will just get shredded by those Jaguars. So this is not looking great for me in terms of army positioning. I need to change something up. I can't attack from the front, so what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try splitting my army. So I got a couple Zeus here. They're going to attack these sniper towers here. Here comes some Jaguars and Chameleon though. They're inside my base and Mammoth's firing on my headquarters. This is bad news. I'm under attack here, trying to see if I can move some Zeus in to defend. And meanwhile, my Zeus over here, these are the Zeus that I sent to distract. I don't know if it worked out well because they're just getting shredded by those Jaguars. So luckily, I was able to clean up the red player's assault. I need to get my Typhoons out of there though. That's a lot of Jaguars and Chameleons moving off the ledge there. They're headed straight for my base. I don't have any units at the front of my base. I'm in trouble here if I don't get something to the front of my base soon. So I start moving units there. Meanwhile, in the back of the base here, finally got into the red player's base. I got a handful of heavy assaults and Typhoons. Here come the Jaguars though. I've only got 1 Zeus in position so far and a couple heavy assaults. I'm trying to see if I can produce enough units. Here they come. We see 5, 6 Jaguars, 7 Jaguars, and Chameleon Fog. I got some more Zeus rolling up though, just in time. It's going to be Zeus against Jaguars. The Chameleon Fog's going to run out, and it's going to be the Zeus just raining heavy fire on the Jaguars. And these Jaguars are getting absolutely shredded. Meanwhile, my units are trying to move in on the red player's base, but the red is spamming riflemen. Heavy assaults are not good against riflemen. It's not going to work out. But my Zeus here absolutely clean up my opponent's Jaguar attack. This is a much needed comeback defense. Even though my attack here in the back was not overly successful, I think that I found a weak point potentially in the red player's base. So I'm going to retreat my Typhoons and I'm going to move them off the plateau. I'm trying to see if I can get my Typhoons to link back up with the rest of my newly made army. I got another Typhoon here for a resource collection. Gonna grab those resources, which is nice. Got a lot of Zeus here, and these riflemen are gonna be no match for the Zeus tanks. So now that my Typhoons have linked back up with my Zeus tanks, I'm gonna go ahead and try to move my army up. My command points are pretty much full. I'm at 120 command points. So we got a rifleman here at the bottom of the cliff here. It's gonna get cleaned up by my Zeus tanks. My Zeus are gonna move onto the plateau now, and there's no defenses back here. We've finally broken onto the plateau. Let's see how much damage we can do. So I try to get my Zeus to do an attack move. The microing was a little bit weird, and they wandered off into just random places before firing, but now we're getting settled in now. That's a lot of Avia factories, 6 Avia factories total. One of them is going to go down though, 2 are going to go down. We see a Chameleon with a couple Jaguars in it, but this is just way too many Zeus tanks for the red player to handle. An assault vehicle factory goes down, and we can see here that fire assaults are jumping into the Chameleon Fog. Dragonfly is coming in for the red player, trying to reinforce, but I've got way too many Typhoons here. Red's in trouble now. I'm just decimating the back of the base here, and red's gonna need to do something or it's gonna be game over. Fire assaults jumping in onto the barracks, and they're just shredding the infantry as they come out of the barracks. And we can see here that my opponent is self-destructing their own base, and that is good game. Alright, hope you all enjoyed this super long battle. It was very stressful and very annoying, but we made it happen. We were able to counter dragonfly spam. Good luck in your tournament battles, and we will see you on the next one.